Rockin' Larry Lockin, hey, with the Larry Lockin Network. Oh, we've got with us from the Crystal Blue Pleiadians, we've got Bluemeness. They're from a little seventh dimensional planet, just a little bit southwest of Alcyone. It seems like this is becoming a trend. Bluemeness was on one other time before, but Bluemeness knows Fusacia, who I had on earlier and have had on once other time. She knows the Pleiadian Blue Flame Goddess Vibrance, okay? And they also know the one I met tonight, the Pleiadian Fairy Goddess. Not the Pleiadian Fairy Goddess, Elantris. Yeah, apparently they all went to the same college there in Zerata at Era, in the city of Era there. I know that Vibrance lives there just outside of it, but the rest of them, they all went to school there. There was 12 of them, actually 14 of them. Two ladies that weren't in school. They were a little older. They were kind of like, I don't know, like, what do you call it? Not graduate students, but they were like counselors. Anyway, like they watched over the house and things of that nature. One of them was from the White Collective of Pleiades that I spoke with, and the other one was from the Rainbow Collective. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Besides those two, there were this 12 girls there. Apparently, according to Elantris, I've met most of them. And I have, but in a collective setting, not one-on-one like I have with these ladies. Well, of course, there's one they say I haven't met. That's their sister, or the sister of theirs that is from Venusia, and she's one of the Venusian-based Pleiadians in the 6th dimension there. And so I haven't interacted with her, but the others I have directly and indirectly, apparently. So far I've heard from Fusacia, I've heard from Vibrance again, and I've heard from Elantris for the first time, and now Bluemeness for the second time wants to come through. But Bluemeness wants to talk about, she's kind of her and Fusacia are both, they look at Earth as kind of their favorite reality TV show. I'm almost getting the impression. They know what's going on here. They tune in, they spy in, basically, in a loving way, I suppose. Kind of obsessed with it. But Bluemeness wants to talk a little bit about how they just can't get over how doom and gloom it always seems to be down here on Earth, that people are expecting that the planet's going to end, the planet's going to blow up, or there's all kinds of chaos coming or on the way. Bluemeness, I'll just say before I let you take over, yeah, the world, it's been burning since it's been turning. You know what I'm saying? Yes, it is. And people predict date after date after date. It's going to end here. Oh, it's coming around the corner. It's coming on a slow boat from China with a bunch of a leaky raft from China, right? They keep patching up in the middle of the Pacific. Nah, it's ridiculous. People that predict dates, and even if you had the right date, why would you want to sound like a fool like that, though, and come out and make that kind of a proclamation that it was going to end on a date? And if it was going to end on a date, what time zone would that be in? Would it end as midnight rang in like New Year's Eve? You suppose that's how it happened, peeps? Is that it would end at midnight here? In America, it'd end at midnight in New York. Of course, it'd still be 9 o'clock out here in the West, and even 8 o'clock in Alaska, and depending on the time of year, let's just say it was 7 o'clock out in Hawaii. Okay, forget about those two, but in the continental U.S. And so then comes, an hour later, and what? Then Chicago, the Chicago and the Midwest, Central Time Zone, they're going to end. Then you get into the Colorado and the Rocky Mountains and Denver and, Denver and, I don't know, Denver and Phoenix, or I know Arizona doesn't observe one of the time changes during the year. So, basically a big city like Colorado and Salt Lake City, they're going to end, and then it gets out here to the west, and you got San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Sacramento, Portland, Seattle, and so forth and so on. They're all going to Vancouver, BC. They're all going to take a dive at that point. I don't know, I always just thought it was kind of funny. I mean, dates to me don't mean really much, except every now and then they can kind of be a gauge, like when Cryon talks about the 36-year galactic shift. I'd buy into that because I know it to be a fact in my innate. I heard it before he even told it to me. That's all 2012 was a halfway point in the galactical shift. And it's not all that it was, actually. It was a big deal, 2012. A lot of things happened in 2012. Time was altered a little bit. I think time sped up by about 5 or 6 seconds. A lot of scientists think it was even more, but I do. I'd say 5 seconds is a good a good bet, 5 or 6 seconds, compared to how it was before the turn of, not this last decade here, but the decade before. Sure, sped up, and then it's like that. It just keeps going and going, and then once in a while we'll have days or a few days where it'll seem to just drag and reset itself again. But that's what I always figured. And then the only other date I had heard was, and I didn't hear this from Cryon though. This is what I heard from my guides, and I started to hear again here lately, not from my guides, but from paranoid people, that 2012, 2025 early on, 2030 in January, like 20, let's see, what, 12, not 12, 12, 12, 21 of, 2030, you know, basically the end of 2030, okay, let's just give it another few days. The end of 2030 was the end of that galactical shift, and what that, it definitely is. What that means, I don't know. Probably nothing compared to, except for the fact just that, you know, some planetary alterations, maybe, I don't know, like 2012 when we had all that trippy, the weather got, the environment got clearer, and I noticed things were really crisp during that time frame. It was the first and only time I've seen a triple rainbow. It was the first time in my life I'd ever seen a double rainbow. On it, all 3 of these days were completely crystal clear. There wasn't a cloud within 100 miles, I would bet. And there wasn't any rain in the air. If there was moisture, it wasn't visible at all. Not even a bit. And no clouds. But 2 perfectly double rainbows. And I'd never seen one like it before. I'd never seen too many rainbows by themselves that were that immaculate in a clear sky. Not in a clear sky. No, I mean nothing around. Now, it's funny. I've seen probably close to just under a handful of double rainbows since then, but none of them were completely bright like this one with a bright sky, clear sky. No. And none of them were that thick. They weren't these thick rainbows. They were like little, very skinny type of rainbows. Okay, they weren't these big thick guys that look like they come out of a kid's coloring book, for crying out loud. And then the one time I seen a triple rainbow, that to me, I'm not even sure I believe I still saw that. It was that immaculate. And then, I was talking with a guy. He's been on Coast to Coast a few times, and I haven't heard from Alf in a long time. I don't know what happened to him, but he used to be in my group, The Fringe Thinkers, and post a lot. Alfred Lambremont Weber, very popular guy, kind of a... he's kind of one of those tweeners between like a conspiracy guy and a starseed guy. You know, he's sort of like that. Okay, and that's kind of how he operates. But he's a real nice guy. He's Canadian, native gentleman, very smart, very educated. I always like talking to Alf, but I was telling him, I said, man, I don't know. Because he had some guests on at the time that were talking about all these, 2020, 2022, and so on and so forth. And in 2023, which 23, if anybody knows about my story with the number 23, okay, I don't even need to go there. But 2025 had come to my mind when I first heard about that galactical shift. And they told me, 2030, but, watch out for 2025. That could be, that could just be something a little bit different of a year. And I filed that away. I was telling Alf about it, though, a couple years later in, 16. And I said, what I have heard, I don't get hung up on dates. I think it's bullshit. But I did hear 2025, something maybe. And then it wasn't, but it was the start of this last summer here. People were talking about, something right after this election. Something between, something either probably November, December, or could be as late as early into January 2025, but it's going to happen. And I don't blame people for getting caught up in that fever pitch. It's just that I've caught this game before, and I'm not any smarter than any of these people, but I've seen it before, and it's like I figure it like this. If they're ever right, one, either A, who the hell cares, because we're not going to know, maybe existence would be over with, but 2, big deal if they were right. I mean, it'd already be done with. We'd be moved on, and if it were for the positive, man, I'd never be so happy to be wrong, about something. But, I'd look at it this way. I'd be like, okay, well, all right, you got me one time. I won you the other 3,000 times, but, you were right this one time. It reminds me of the one time that I lost a game of Jeopardy. Jeopardy is a very intense game, okay? I thought about, somebody was trying to get me to go on there one time. I'm like, there's no way. We actually looked into it, and if there was two subjects. It was authors and some other subject that if I was a proficient in both of those, I might have qualified to be able to get on there. But I would have never won it. There'd be nobody I'd beat else that would get on there. I mean, I would take third place, but still, man, to get on there and get parting gifts, that would have been cool. But it was authors, because I know all the old books, but I'm a little shaky on the authors, and something else I can't remember. But okay, I've been playing that game against people, adults, coworkers, getting together. I probably played a couple thousand games in my life, like at home, and we just add up who got the most total questions right. And then when I was a kid, sometimes my grandfather would want to play where we would take all our points, and then at that final Jeopardy, we'd get to risk them on that. And I didn't like that either, because that isn't, I'm not going to sit there and have 3 and you have 5 and bet my 3 and then beat you on one question. If it was for money, that's a whole nother ballgame. It's a whole nother ballgame. That's gambling. That's some strategy. That's not. If we're not going to play for money, I want to see who actually had the best game, not who blew it on one question because they made a dumb decision on betting it. But I'm not playing a slot machine. I'm playing an actual video game here. But I only lost once, and it was to a girlfriend of mine. It was Kids Week on Jeopardy. Not trying to belabor the point and saying it was Kids Week, but they were 5th and 6th grade kids, and yeah, it was the best game of Jeopardy I've ever played. My funnest, most memorable ever. She beat me 34-33. And I was so happy. It was fun. It was fun, even though it was the one time I've ever lost at home. Ever. I played some stiff competition before. Used to beat my grandfather all the time, and he was a brilliant man. I knew all these little, chicken shit questions that didn't have anything to do with anything really hard. The hard stuff I had a little bit of trouble with, like authors and things like that. Who wrote The Catcher in the Rye, who wrote For Whom the Bell Tolls, books I know, but can't think of the author, or Great Gatsby, I can't think of the authors offhand. But yeah, that was fun. The one time I lost was the funnest I ever had, against the, 5th and, it was 5th and 6th grade questions, yeah, the easy stuff below me, nah. No, I mean, I could have been like that and been like, oh, you beat me one time by 1 point, and it was the kids. No, it wasn't. I didn't feel that way. I mean, let's be real, I'm sure that was the case, though. I mean, but then again, everybody's gonna get lucky once in a while. That's what I mean about predicting the end of the goddamn world. Eventually, man, hey, listen, I suck at throwing darts. I'm horrific at it. My coordination is terrible. But you could put me at a regulation distance from a dartboard. You give me 250 tries, and I'm gonna hit that ring, not necessarily the bullseye, but that little ring right around it. For all intents and purposes, the bullseye area once, maybe. I'll tell you what, you give me 1,000 tries, and you give me 1,000 times, and I'll bet my eyesight against $20,000 of your money that I would get one around, not exact bullseye, but that little ring right above it, around it. Yeah, no question about it. It's just the law of averages. You're not going to win a coin toss a million times in a row. It's just sometimes how it goes. I'll give you one last example. The craziest thing I ever watched in a home game. Well, 2 things. One of them was when my uncle beat me at a game of Monopoly. We played a legit, straight-up, by-the-book rule game of Monopoly. Everything worked out just right to where he had me beat and bankrupt in 15 minutes. How he did that? Well, typically when you play Monopoly, you do have one rule. You have to wait till everybody goes around the table or goes around the board once before you can buy property. Yeah, we went ahead, and for the time, to move ahead in time constraints, we did shit can that one rule. We went ahead and we said, okay, you land on a property this first time around, you can buy it. Big mistake on my part. 15 minutes, he had me bankrupt. Everything. Mortgage, bankrupt, done. The other one was my son was about 15. He had his best friend Jacob over. I had a brand new electronic battleship game. They set up their ships. They were all excited and got it all going. And they were trying to decide who goes first and going to flip a coin. But I said, you know what? Why don't you, Jacob's the guest, son. Why don't you let Jacob go first? Well, Jacob went first, all right. And this game went on, and it went on, and it went on, and it went on. And I shit you not, you could never in a million years, well, you could script it, but I could never see this ever happening again. they ran out of pegs, or they were close. They had nowhere to put another peg. Let me put it to you this way. It was Jacob's move. He had only one place to call. That's it. He had one place to call, and that would have sank Chiron's last battleship, and he did, because there was nowhere else he could have put it. I mean, it was right there, whatever. That was the only open spot on the whole goddamn board on any ship. He called it and won. Guess what? By the same token, Chiron had Jacob's last. Chiron knew Jacob only needed to have one more peg to kill him off, and there was only one place to go with him. So basically, there was only two more moves that could be made. Actually, one, because one was going to end the game one way or the other. And there was nothing he could have done. You couldn't have blown it, because that's the only place you could put it. And so it was just a matter of the person who went first won. There was nothing the other person could have done about it. At all. Not even. Did everything right. And that was weird. That was one of them enigmas that, man, that'd be even hard to sit there and have to figure and count and, rehearse it for a scripted movie. And it was just crazy. And I felt so bad for my son. He really was into it. He really wanted to win. And he would have, well, I mean, it would have been probably different had they went the other way, but you know what I'm saying? That was the only place Jacob could have put it, and it's St. Chiron, and, Chiron walked around this side of the board, put it right, Jacob's ship sank him. I mean, those kind of things are, sometimes it comes right down to when it's that tight of a competition, man. It just, that's where the person who goes first gets the advantage, to counteract, I guess, the home field advantage. But Bluemeness is here from the Crystal Blue Pleiadians. She's going to talk a little bit about this Doom and Gloom that her and Fusation, the girls, have been watching from up there. This, but I just got to tell you, Bluemeness, yeah, I know, girl, it's always been turning since the shit's been turning, or been burning since the shit's been turning. It's, don't blame us, we didn't start the fire, we've just kept it stoked. Larry, thank you. That was quite a monologue. Yes, it seems to us that, humans are always coming with these dire predictions that really never come to fruition. And we don't understand why that is. It's like they anticipate chaos and then they're disappointed when it doesn't come true. Now, this is concerning to us because of our love for the human race. What we don't understand, all kidding aside, is why humans put themselves through this, and we also feel bad for those who are gifted and have the ability and the forethought to see through this, to see and envision potential disasters, and we're really not seeing anything out of the ordinary here. I mean, it must be really hard being stuck on that planet when you have that kind of thought that other people really don't that often, or people that think that way are few and far between. I wonder what that's like. It just oh, I don't know. You're asking the wrong person, Bluemeness. Boy, I couldn't imagine. Here? Nah. Anyway, Larry, instead of turning, but what you're witnessing now, what we've noticed, and this is encouraging, instead of turning into chaos, this transformation has started in all these unexpected ways that do not typically coincide with this sort of behavior. It's remarkable. It really is a remarkable phenomenon. People really seem like they're starting to finally get it down there. Wouldn't you agree that it seems like something is different? Yeah, Bluemeness, I do think so. I don't know to what degree, but yes. I definitely get the vibe. Something is a little bit different, yes. Now we'll see, what that leads into. But yeah, there are. It's one of them steps that makes you realize that, people, there is more than hope. It's, eventually it will break through if it keeps going this way. Yes. Yes, Larry, it's a remarkable phenomenon. It's like, it's like kind of like being in a, just kind of a parallel universe where all the positive energies have just came in and they've rearranged all your negative realities for you. It's like you were able to sidestep this by kind of stepping out of time for a minute. At least that's the way we overanalyze it up here. And it's complicated when you talk about the parallel realities. I know it's something that star seeds on your planet and light workers do talk about a lot, but it is kind of complex, especially for those who are not really awakened yet on your planet. This time warp that you're going through, or these time dips it seems like you're having. I know that time has sped up for you guys, like you were mentioning in the pre-show. Time is sped up, and then yet you'll have lulls where it kind of slows down again for a little bit, for a few days. But sometimes it has a literal skippingness to it, though. It's like it skips over things. It glosses over tragic events, and you're able to duck and dodge it. That's just what we see. Is that how you feel down there? Yeah, it really is. Now more so than ever, Bluemeness. It seems like yeah, it seems like there is a lot to that, right? It seems like it's a reality, and it could just be a gut feeling that I have, but yeah, it sure seems like it to me, sister. You're transforming basically, as you know, into another dimension of existence. That's what's going on right now. Of course, how many times, how many different ways can it be said? But your old paradigm is going bye-bye. Historically, the negative influences, the negative thought patterns that you've had on your planet, it's just been, it seems to us that finally what's happened is these shifts have all worked together. These individual and collective shifts, especially over the last 15 years, have worked together to kind of, alter the course of history, if you will. These shifts have kind of manifested a new time paradigm, you might say. Humanity right now, it seems like, is really experiencing a payoff for the collective coming together and being on the same page and stepping into that vibration and that frequency together. It seems to have really awakened a higher state of consciousness, and even in people that, we've never thought about words like awoken or awakened and ascension and, dimensional shifts. It seems like it's really starting to get everybody to kind of look at things, whether they're self-conscious, subconsciously aware of it or not, whether they're just subconscious of it or not. It seems like it's really made people stop and to think, and whether they know they're doing it or not, we can't judge that, and who could. But it does seem like it's different from our observational standpoint. It really does, and it seems like there's more of a tendency overall to embrace love and embrace understanding. And it seems like what it seems like to us, Larry, is that people are tired. They're just tired of fighting. They're tired of arguing. They're tired of squabbling over this, that, and everything, but nothing at all, as we've heard you say. It just seems to us like people are they've had it. Yeah, Bluemeness, I think so. I really do. I think, well, a lot of us have had it for a long time, girl. I passed it. Not only have I had it, but I done passed having it, a million kilometers and a million miles back, and then caught up to it again and passed it again and back and forth. Now, I've been so over it for a lifetime or two, so, yeah, but it does, you're right. It seems like people are finally starting to they're burnt on it. They're tired of it. In fact, it's not that they're being negative about being burnt out on it. They've just had it. They're just over it now. Now they're just kind of getting over it. They're over it. They're just like, okay, enough. Enough is enough. See ya. I wouldn't want to be a Larry. You're right. And it seems like this new dynamic is creating this situation where all of a sudden thoughts are being provoked. Ideas are being thought of. Chains that used to bind your consciousness and your mentality and your very existence, it seems like they're loosening. It seems like to me, it's also paving the way for what you guys call disclosure on there. The 3 or 4 people on your planet that don't know that we're real, or that, somebody like you really is from there. Yeah, it sure seems like it, don't it? It seems like, we complained Loomis about it. Bluemeness, we've been complaining about when's it going to happen for so long that now it's just like, now that, we could almost give a shit less. Now it's like, now that we could give a shit less, okay, now everybody's like, yeah, they're real. Yeah, no shit, they're real. What a dumb thought to think that they weren't. Just when we stop being, we stop being butthurt about it, nobody else realizing it. Now everybody does, and it's, oh, okay, well, gee. We, talk about, yeah, it is really, really, it's kind of probably Luminous, one of the coolest, yet at the same time, most anticlimactic turn of events. Yeah, I mean, it's like getting to there to find out your final judgment. I mean, you know everything's going to be okay. You're not going to get your head cut off, but at the same time, it's not exactly like the sky opened up and tie-dyed rainbows come floating down at you either. It was just like, oh, okay, well, oh, hey, cool, yeah, cool. Here we go. Yeah, I mean, you're, you know that we're showing up regularly in your skies now, even for you. Look at your new connection with Procyon and Valence. Yes, you mean balance. Oh, no, no, no. No, sweetie, I call him Valence. It's a long story. A long, long story. You might not want to know about it. You should ask him about it. Oh, jeez, I'm get roped in. No, I'll pass. It's cool. I'm imagining purple, green, and crystal, and offspring, and anyway, no, yeah, but it is, of course. I mean, and I think that Luminous, if I would say this, that yeah, I can really tell the tale because of video that I have of some of the ships coming in around me and stuff, and people are like, cool, but they're just like, oh wow, nobody's surprised because everybody knows it's there. And in yesteryear, even people that were awake and be like, wow, I wish that would happen to me. Whoa. Now it's, and I feel bad sometimes for folks that were really into this and wanted to have an extraterrestrial encounter, and I'd be like, yeah, man, it'll happen for you. You haven't, just hang in there. Now I don't. Now it's one thing they're not going to get any sympathy from me for because they're there all the time in the damn sky. They're in your trees. They're everywhere. You just got to open your eyes. And it's not going to be some light being necessarily that's going to fly their spacecraft onto your deck, although it might. But it's going to be, condensed down version. I mean, they can condense these ships down to little, and their bodies down to little, millimeter, in mass, millimeter in mass and in weight, and that's it. That's the ability they have in those dimensions that come from there, and they have to be able to handle the density down here on Earth, some of them. But yeah, it is what it is, and they're there for the scene. If you're not seeing them, and I understand, maybe you don't have anybody, maybe all you need is somebody to kind of just show you what you're looking at. Go out and take a look, but don't overthink it either. Look at it and just open your eyes. I can't really brag too much, Bluemeness, because they came to me. Look, I didn't make any effort. I didn't exactly, and I'm glad for my guides. I'm glad they came into my life, and really am. It gets me emotional, but man, the last thing, I did not ask for that shit to come along on a goddamn Friday night on December 28, 2010, when I was going to bed with a migraine to listen to my typical political drip, drip, drip radio show that happened to be off the air. And then I didn't anticipate hearing the word Pleiadian and not knowing what the hell to do with that word for a day or two. I've never had such an emotion. It didn't strike me as anything, but yet I couldn't shake it. It was nothing, but it was something. It wasn't nothing, but it really wasn't something either, and I couldn't quite figure it out. Yeah, it was bizarre. And then, of course, if I ever have that feeling again about something, I'll know it's something, because boy, did it turn out to be something. Yeah, and the synchronicities were crazy. See, that's the thing, is something was legit, Luminous, when the alternative is crazier than the facts. I mean, the alternative would be nuttier than the fact that I've had contacts with extraterrestrials from other planets. The alternative is even crazier. That would mean I would be a part of a million circumstances of shit. I mean, yeah. I mean, I should have been buying a lottery ticket every goddamn day. Then, if that's the case, I mean, that would be the real crazy story. Be the real wild story, as if it weren't true. And then that would also mean the government would have to have technology that's, not just the 50 years ahead that they'll cop to, but the 1,000 years. Yeah, that would be the cool story. That would be the wild story, as if it weren't real. Yeah. A lot of times, extraterrestrials in your sky, Larry, are misunderstood. It's all fear, it's all doom and gloom, they're here to invade, They're here to take over. They're here. It's deception. It's New Age deception, or it's, what do they say down there, Larry? That it's demonic. It's satanistic. They're there to, they're there to what? And yeah, I know, Bluemeness. My thing is too that, okay. The only thing maybe is this, that some of them are kind of creepy, but they're just low vibrating and they can mess with you, and so can high vibrating ones too if you're not in the right mind frame for it. But because it's tripped me out, and I've had to call my Pleiadian guides in. I've had them physically, watch them physically take out these other lower dimensional beings. But these ones that are being seen in the sky and stuff by people, they're not seeing the dark and evil. Not that anything's evil, but they're not seeing that. They're seeing just anything in the sky, and they think that it's evil. Because why? Because they're more advanced than we are. I mean, I don't know, because they won't show themselves all the way, all the time. Well, would you want to come down to a hostile planet and show yourself like that? Yes, their technology's way ahead of ours, but they're not trigger happy either. And otherwise, if they were trigger happy, we'd have been gone a long time ago. And I refuse to buy the fact that, although anything's possible, I refuse to buy the fact that they're just fucking with you. They're just, they're just there to get on you and mess with you and screw with you. That may be the case with some of them. And you know what? I'll tell you the truth. Some Pleiadian elementals love to do that. They do. But they're sarcastic. I can understand the sense of humor. That's where kind of karma's paid me back, because they think it's funny to do the shit they've done to me before. And they've done some shit that they would scare some people. Put them up to making a comedy video about a guy who stalks people with insomnia. Or, a couple of times broke character and took over my airwaves before with some weird shit and with weird electronic voices. Or, I've got to find this, people. If anybody's listening, somebody remind me of this. Greg Prescott's ex-girlfriend, Greg is if you're a starseed, it's been around if you were into this stuff more than, say, 5-10 years ago, you would know who he was. He owns N5D. He was a revolutionary. And he's just very quiet and a subdued guy for the most part. Otherwise, he'd still be a household fucking name, probably outside of even our community. But his girlfriend, Michelle Walling, and I used to do a show together called The Cosmic Awakening. Well, Michelle would come over and afterward and do some shows with me on the PEP now and then. Her and I were doing a show with this lady, Sarah Brown out of, I think the woman's from Toronto. I haven't talked to her in years. But anyway, she had to go to the bathroom real quick or do something with her son. And Michelle and I were talking, and I said to her, she either said it to me or I said to her, she said, well, Larry, is there anything else that we need to talk about? Or I said that to her. I'm going to have to go back and look, but it was one or the other to wrap it up. We didn't know if Sarah was going to be back on the air or not. And this voice, this electronic, but it was not an electronic creepy voice. It was just a human, feminine, female voice came through and said, talk about Nibiru. Talk about Nibiru. And I said, I started to go, and she thought, Larry, oh my God, Larry, did you hear that? And we're on air. I'm going to have to go back and look at this tonight. I haven't thought about that in years, but I said, yeah, Michelle, did you hear what they just said? She said, yeah. She said, what do you think they said? I said, I think they said Nibiru. And she said, that's what they said. And I said, talk about Nibiru. Well, and I kind of got funny. I said, well, we're about the end. Maybe we can talk about Nibiru next time, because it was a hot topic then too, of course. Well, more so than now. Now it's just kind of a cataclysm, or it's kind of a character of itself, to joke about it. But yeah, talk about Nibiru. And of course Sarah missed it, and she comes back on there, and she's all, hey, Sarah, is everything okay? So yeah, she was helping her son with his homework or something real quick. And I said, oh my, you missed it, girl. You missed it. And so I remember telling Marianne Rada about it. She's another contactee, Pleiadian Renegades, a very author, kick-ass woman. I learned a lot of what I knew. She was a lot of my inspiration. But I played it for Marianne. She said, whoa. Yeah, I know. Well, we were going to have... Greg had ended up having a fire in his studio, and then we never just went through with it. But Greg was going to blow it up at N5D at the studio in Florida, at N5D Studio, and see what more we could make out of it. I might go back and listen to it again. It really is irrelevant, but my analytical mind wanted to try to see and make sure that it wasn't anything else, something cutting in. I don't know what it would have been. It couldn't have been a radio bleed over, because that's not how, You know, of course, the internet works, but then again, Google Hangout was how we had to do that shit back then on our YouTube shows. You had to wire it in through Google Hangout, and it was, there's some pluses to it and some negatives. The pluses were you could have like 1,000 people in the room at once. The negative was you had one person on camera was wonderful, or okay. You had 2 people on camera at once, forget it. It fucked with the sound. They would cut in and out no matter the equipment you had. It was shoddy like that. So I had to make sure that, you know, I didn't care to ever be on camera that much. So, you know, it kind of takes away from the imagination to do that. I think you can focus better on it, but I'm an old school radio guy like that too, though. So I would just let the guests be on camera, one of them, not both, and then I had the control. I'd have to turn people's camera off and get used to doing that because it would mess with it. Now it's not like that anymore, but here's the goddamnedest thing with it now doing a show in there. Yeah, everything's better, except they don't have an option to kill your, yeah, they have an option to kill your microphone like always. You have to put something over the little camera part if you want to kill the camera, and I don't know why they don't have the camera icon button there like everything else does. Yeah, that's kind of weird. But yeah, that Nibiru, I thought maybe something might have cut in and cut out, and I thought maybe that sounded like Sarah's voice kind of saying something like that, but she was busy helping her kid, so I don't know what she could have said that would have sounded like that. But again, I'm always open-minded. It could have been anything, but for that to trip Michelle out like that too, not like, oh, did you hear that? Yeah, kind of. No, really. It was Nibiru. And then it seems like I'd listen to it again, and then it wasn't quite as much. And then I'd listen to it again, and it was again. It's like different time frames altered it. But I'm going to go back and listen to that Nibiru. If anybody out there hears me say this, you know what? Nah, forget it. I'm not going to. I'm just going to. No, nobody will probably hear that part. But if you're curious and you want to hear somebody break into a radio broadcast and say, you know, when the host asks, is there anything else we forgot to cover that we need to talk about? That's what either I said to Michelle or Michelle said to me. And that voice came in and said, talk about Nibiru. Yeah, Nibiru, yep. But, you know, probably not. It was probably nothing. But, oh, it was something. Yeah. Yeah, it was something. And, you know, at the very least, I think anybody who heard it would be like, oh, man, I could see where you would have thought that. But what the hell would it have been? You know, Sarah, now she was busy with her boy. And that's not something she would have. She was kind of a jokester, but she wouldn't have done it. It wouldn't have been something exactly like she would have done. She would have said some other kind of shit, not Nibiru. You know what I mean? It was, the devil is always in the details. But so that's just kind of, you know, that's kind of one of them things. But, you know, they're here to foster good peace for the most part. That'd be pretty egotistical of them to, you know, want to, you know, reign supreme over the earth and control it with an iron fist. I mean, you know, there are beings like that, though, historically. Egotistical beings that, you know you got a problem when you're a lot more advanced from a technical standpoint and than some other race, but yet you feel the need to bully them around or make them respect you, and I'm a jealous God, and there will be no gods before me. What kind of an arrogant, stupid ass, what kind of a stupid way is that to think? I mean, especially when you've got the juice. Oh, yeah, you know, it'd be like Muhammad Ali getting all, it'd be one thing for an adult man to piss him off, but a little kid, a 10-year-old, 11-year-old kid saying who was taking a boxing class saying, oh, I'm going to kick your ass, Ali. You know, and Ali getting, oh, I'm going to show that kid right now. I can do it. I can. I'm going to prove it to everybody. Give me a fucking break. Why? I mean, why can't you be humble enough to laugh that off? You know, people are weird and they get scared. I get scared too, man. I'm fearful for what's going to happen next in life, but not because of that bullshit. I'm talking about, like, real life stuff. You know what I mean? Like, being alone, you know? I mean, like, I got real issues, dude. I mean, I don't have time for that shit. And I have extraterrestrial around me, and I've gotten freaked out by them here because of the vibrations not too long ago when all this shit started happening with the shift. And these ones started contacting me again, or these one branch of these old-ass ones started contacting me again. They were fine, but then these creepy ones were around a little bit that I had to get rid of. Okay, so I dealt with that shit for real, actually. And yeah, it's pretty intimidating, but man, you know, there's really actual shit going on out there besides that kind of stuff, you know? It's not a big deal, but I think the disclosure thing, I think it had to happen and wait till a point where people wouldn't be. Now it's going to be like, okay, we were at a phase where people would have been all weirded out completely as a collective, most people. Oh my God, what's that? What are they? What do they mean? What do they want? Oh my God, like on a mass. And then it got to a point where it was like, eh, yeah, well, that'd be kind of different. I wonder if they do exist. Now I think it's kind of toning down to where maybe by the time it does happen, a lot of that collective will be of the mindset of, um, whatever, okay, we figured it was always real anyway, even though you goddamn liar, you naysayer, you called me everything in the book and everything but well, you did call me a screw loose, I should be in the nut house, I mean, yeah, but yeah, nah, I'm sure you always figured it was real, but all we can do is have a good laugh and give them a hug at that point. Yeah, well, I knew you always, yeah, I knew you always thought it was on the up and up, yeah, sure, as I give him a thumbs up and put my pointer finger in with my thumb and give them the okay sign. Yep. The presence of those ships in the sky, it's a big deal. I saw this picture the other day of all these little silver discs like in the sky, and there was like endless amount of them right together. And it was so weird because right after my awakening, or I call it my awakening, my contact, I had this dream, and I don't usually dream in sound, but in this dream I did. It was this vibrating, this kind of a tune fork noise when you hit a tune fork, or that the noise, that ping, and it was all these ships tilted at an angle like they do when they come in here, like silver discs, saucers, just kind of all rocking back and forth, like, and there must have been hundreds or thousands of them right together there, and this picture reminded me of that, and I hadn't thought about that dream in all those years, and that's how it was going to be one morning. I'd wake up to see that. Now I doubt that's how they would do it. That's pretty imposing, but it was just weird how they made me remember that. If people are just they get scared, and this fear though, what do you think about all this Bluemeness, honestly? Well, Larry, you brought up fear. You could tell I was wanting to jump in. It seems to me like it's kind of, it's given way. It seems that curiosity now, it's not that people totally believe on that side yet, but it seems like there's an open-mindedness and a curiosity that we've never noticed before, or, that hasn't been there in some time. Oh, you'd be right about forever. Yeah, right, you'd be right. But it does seem like, it seems like this is really setting the stage for what so many people like you I know thought would be impossible to happen, and that is to live in oneness with it, with those from another society. Just like somebody moving over from another country. That it just might be that basic. And then no big deal. Hey, we all get along, and we're all here to, we're all here as creation and the Creator's child, and we are the Creator's parent, and we are all creation, and here together, and living together, and not thinking anything of it, communicating with the higher dimensions, having a cup of coffee proverbially with them, and, all sorts of things like that. It's going to be an amazing world like that. I mean, it could very well be, and it would be. And it would probably just be the start of everything. Yes, Larry, you're right, it would be the start. Once you know everything there is to absolutely know that you could ever dream of as far as anything Earth, scholastically, consciously, anything like that, once you know everything there could be to know, then and only then, that's when it starts to sort of kind of begin reality. So it's much more than people can really put their fingers on it. It's more than we can even quite understand completely. We only know another rung or two above you. That's it. Maybe through consciousness, our technology, a lot of it's thousands of years ahead of yours, and then some. But as far as knowing where we came from, knowing a lot of these things, we just have a little bit better of an insight because we're a little further along. We don't really know a whole hell of a lot more than you guys do. Excuse my language. No, you're excused. Your human spirit, though, the Earth human spirit it's fascinating. And we can't wait to see the next chapter in this. It's full speed ahead, it seems, and it's just now moment by now moment. And I really appreciated jumping in here with you today, Larry, and Thank you for having all my other sisters on here, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and let you depart, and I appreciate it. Now, who knows who you'll hear from next. Oh, don't do that to me. You know what I keep, Bluemeness, real quick? I keep wondering, I keep wondering when the second lady that I met with, the lady and that guy, that I met with that second time, the only other dream I've ever had, the Purple Collective, when they're gonna, do you by any chance know her name? We do have, yes, we do. One of them is our friend. We're not sure if it's the one, you know, all those purple ones kind of look alike, Larry. Now you're starting to sound like an earthling. Well, I don't know. Okay, well, I guess when the time comes, I'm going to find out. Yes, you will find out. Yeah, we'll see then. And then I'll tell, no matter who it is, I'll go ahead and tell you that, oh, that's who I thought it was. Funny. Anyway, thanks, Bluemeness. I appreciate it. Oh, well, so there it is. There's Bluemeness in full bloom. And that's how it goes. So hopefully onward and upward, everybody. We'll see you until next time. This is Rockin' Larry Lockin' for Creation's Manifestation Centers. One on every corner of the cosmos and the galaxy. Creation's Manifestation Centers. The nebulas, those naughty nebulas for a nice new now moment. Now moment. And that's what I get for trying to be witty. With that, much love, and you know where you can find us. We're here, we're there, we're everywhere. With that, a big cosmic dating game kiss to the collective, and mwah, we out.